We get to tell him about our rich history and our people in this region that have known resilience over the years. They have built our nation's skylines, they power our economy, and they deliver innovations for the future. But for decades, we've also been on the front lines of Washington's failures. Think back to where we were at the end of the last administration. The people had just gone through the highest inflation in history. We saw rents in Allentown and Bethlehem surge by 40%. Gas prices in our area reached over $5 a gallon, and household debt skyrocketed. Failed economic policies, a war on American energy, wide open borders, and America last foreign policy from the Biden administration. It was all taking a toll on our community and the working people right here in the Lehigh Valley. President Trump and JD Vance walked into an Oval Office in January to find one of the worst messes in American history. But we understood the mission. You sent us to Washington to do the hard things, fix the damage, and deliver for the working people of America. So we got to work. We had a border that was wide open with over 10 million people coming through illegally during the Biden administration. Massive amounts of drugs, human trafficking, gun smuggling. People said it couldn't be fixed. Well, this administration has brought illegal border crossings to the lowest level on record, and we in Congress back them up with funding to do that. We had conflicts spreading all across the world. We were humiliated in Afghanistan, and our nation and our reputation on the world stage was one of retreat. But under this administration, we've done what America does best: lead. We established a peace plan for the Middle East when everybody said that was not going to be possible. We got tough on our enemies, and we've restored American leadership. To back up the administration's work, we just passed a new defense budget that delivers funding to modernize our military, rebuild our strength, and give our service members the pay raise that they deserve. We also had an economy where energy costs were hitting families hard, with gas prices soaring and our nation going hat in hand to dictatorships around the world for oil. We were told the only way to get out of that situation was by making sure that we banned gas cars, that we had ridiculous cap and tax schemes like the one that Governor Shapiro was pushing here in Pennsylvania that would have driven up our energy costs significantly. They also tried to fool us and tell us that these things were called the Inflation Reduction Act. We know that was another failure. But this administration, the Trump administration, has unleashed American energy production like never before, achieving record highs in oil and natural gas output, driving down gas prices nationwide, and restoring our position as the world's top energy producer. Again, we in Congress are backing them up by reducing permit times and slashing red tape. Now let's recap. During the last 11 months, with this Congress and this administration working together, we have now been able to secure the border, have a stronger nation, a safer world, an energy revolution that is going to bring down costs for everyday Americans. It's incredible. On issue after issue, the administration has delivered on its promises in a way that no administration has done in memory. And we're pushing ahead with our plans to build an economy where prices are more affordable, wages are higher, and working families can thrive. When seniors said they were struggling after 4 years of Bidenomics, we delivered a new $6,000 bonus deduction, eliminating taxes on Social Security for 88% of seniors. With renters and homeowners struggling because of high prices, we have worked to stabilize our economy, which means interest rates come down, and we also passed what is the largest investment in housing affordability in decades, which will pave the way for over 1 million new, high-quality, affordable housing units right here in America. When tipped workers said they wanted to keep more of the money they earned, and when overtime workers said they didn't want to get punished by the IRS for 60-hour work weeks, we passed sweeping tax relief on tips and overtime. And when I said that working families needed relief and the cost of raising a family was out of control, we got to work. I introduced legislation during my second month in office that would raise the child tax credit, and you know what? We went out and did it, permanently raising the child tax credit from $1,000 to $2,200 indexed with inflation so that families can grow and survive right here in our community. Add on top of that new savings accounts for children that are funded with $1,000, and you see how we are investing in the future. When every American said they needed more tax relief, we stopped the Democrats' push for the largest tax increase in history and instead cut taxes for every single American. This is what happens when you have a Congress and an administration that puts America first. When we put workers, families, and small businesses first, we know that we can succeed. This is the alternative to the last administration that was America last, funding their special interests and making sure that nobody could actually get ahead. As we continue this work, we will make sure that the real results Americans deserve, higher wages, more domestic investment, and greater affordability are delivered every single day. Now, there is more work to be done. There is no doubt that it takes a long time to roll back all the failures of Bidenomics. But we aren't going to quit until the job is done, and we're going to get it done because we have a president, a vice president, and a Congress that is putting America first and the American people first. I just want to say again, in closing, what an honor and a privilege it is to represent the Lehigh Valley, my home community. You have given so much to me over the years, and I look forward to giving back to you every single day that I'm in office. Thank you again for being here. Merry Christmas, everybody. God bless, and God bless the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Secretary of Labor, Lori Chavez DeRimmer.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Lehigh Valley. Good morning, Pennsylvania. It's an honor to be with you here and with the Vice President right here at Uline. As your 30th Secretary of Labor, I get to work alongside some incredible people, including your dedicated Congressman, Ryan McKenzie. Let's give him another hand. Nice job. I just want to say, Ryan, you're doing an excellent job. I know that you are fighting tirelessly to support the President's pro-worker agenda, and I cannot thank you enough for that. You know, I actually kicked off my 50-state tour, America at Work, listening right here in Pennsylvania earlier this year as we started with the backbone of American manufacturing for a simple reason. It's important to the President to build the golden age of the American industry. And that starts by hearing how your actions and our actions are impacted daily in Washington, D.C., and how it affects your lives right here at home. President Trump and Vice President Vance understand that too. They trusted me in this role because I promise to listen to the voices of the forgotten working class. I've hit 36 states, and what I'm hearing from coast to coast is a fresh sense of optimism. People are taking pride in their work again, and pride in this country, because they know we have a strong America First leaders back in the White House who finally have their backs. And common sense. Thanks to President Trump and the common sense did you write my speech? And the common sense policies of this administration, the golden age of America is on the horizon. Under Biden, workers lost over $2,900 in purchasing power as inflation rose faster than wages. But under Trump, inflation is coming down and real wages are back on track to increase by nearly $1,200 after his first full year in office. Trump's deregulatory efforts are saving $180 billion or $2,100 per family of four. And let's not forget the largest tax cut in American history. I was a former member of Congress, and I can tell you that was the biggest piece of legislation they will probably ever vote on in this lifetime. And it's for the support of the working family, the no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security. And thanks to the working family tax cuts, a family of four in the state of Pennsylvania will see $7,000 to $11,000 more in take-home pay. That is their money that they earned, and it should stay in their pockets. We're reversing Biden's cost of living disaster that hurt so many working families, dropping of drug prices, gas prices at the lowest in 4 years. Jobs are coming back online, and people are finally getting off the sideline. The labor participation rate is going up. We want more people to be looking for jobs and in the workforce. We just received the jobs numbers this morning. A positive 64,000 jobs were added under this administration. Here's a number to note that I think is very important, and I want you to remember this. And at your next rally, I want you to go say this. Under President Trump, 687,000 jobs have been in the private sector and have gone to native-born Americans. We have a master negotiator in the Oval Office, that shouldn't be a surprise to any of you, who is putting America interests first by striking the new trade deals to restore the U.S. as the world's manufacturing superpower. More than $18 trillion have been committed as investments into this country to hire thousands of new Americans and thousands of new jobs. Made in America is back. U.S. exports are up 6% over the last year, and the trade deficit continues to shrink. President Trump is leveling the playing field for American workers, manufacturers, creating an economy that works for you, not against you. I can tell you, at the Labor Department, we remain laser focused on putting American workers first. Under President Trump, all job gains have, as I mentioned, have gone to American-born workers. Employed today, more today, 2.5 million American workers more than when he took office. The Department of Labor is investing in skills training and educational pathways to help the workers get their foot in the door without that needy 4-year degree. Not everyone will receive a 4-year degree, and that is pride back in America. My dad was a Teamster. I know what it was like to work hard. I know what it's like to build something with your hands, and that's what America needs. They need to know that it's okay to make a 6-figure income with a trade school, be a tradesman or woman, be a craftsman. That's what we want here in America. You all know that the future of this country won't be forged in the halls of these woke universities. It'll be at the hands of the skilled worker. We recently awarded, thank you, we recently awarded $86 million in industry skills funds to prepare the American worker for those in-demand jobs of the future. President Trump set a goal. I talk about this all the time. 1 million active apprentices across this country. And since he has taken office, We have registered more than 300,000 new active apprentices and registered over 2,400 new programs at the Department of Labor. You know, I partnered with Secretary McMahon to help administer the CTE programs and create a streamlined federal education and workforce system. Nearly 70% of 4th and 8th graders are not proficient in reading. The current top-down structure is failing our kids, and so we're going to dismantle the bureaucracy in Washington, D.C., and give the autonomy to the states and send those dollars so that we can have a direct line for the in-market demands of what the jobs are and having the skilled workforce and draw the line from A to B. It's that simple. Get these workers in the workforce. It's what they want each and every day, and we're bridging that gap for those labor market shortages so that you can have mortgage-paying jobs. Listen, as I wrap up here, I want to emphasize to all of you, it's an honor to defend your shot at the American dream. No matter your background, the industry, President Trump's Department of Labor has your back. And that's why you are so special to me, and it's special to be here today. Getting to see thriving family-owned businesses like Uline that started from the ground up. That's the American dream right here. And I'd like to now introduce who embodies that dream. He serves the American people with a deep understanding of what hardworking men and women in this country are up against and what they are capable of. He embodies the same tireless work ethic that built our great nation. He and the Second Lady share that with their children, and in turn share that with America's children. Our Vice President knows that the true heartbeat of America isn't in Washington, D.C. It's right here with you. He's doing an incredible job to help revive our manufacturing sector and ignite our economy. And it's an honor to work with him to put you, the American worker, first. Please join me in welcoming the Vice President of the United States, Mr. JD Vance.
Wow, it is great to be here in Pennsylvania. It's a good day anytime you get out of Washington, D.C. And I got to tell you, I want to go to the bar and drink whatever these guys over here are drinking because they are having a good time. They're having a good time. I want to thank a few people before I get started here. First of all, I'm so honored to be joined by our wonderful Second Lady, Usha Vance, my lovely wife, Usha. I want to thank our great Secretary of Labor, Lori Chavez DeRimmer, who's doing an amazing job, and she's focused on something that I think is very much close to the heart of our great workers here in Pennsylvania, which is this very simple idea that you ought to be able to raise a family and earn a good wage even if you don't go to college. We don't want to force everybody to go to college. We want to empower people who want to work with their hands to earn a good wage and do a good job, and she's fighting for that every single day. Lori's doing a great job. We have got our great Congressman, Ryan McKenzie. Ryan, please stand up and say hello to everybody. Ryan is doing a good job in Washington. He's got a great heart for the people of this district. He's only been in town for a couple of years, maybe only a year now, right? That you've been in Congress, and you see it all the time. You see it with Democrats and Republicans. Sometimes people go to Washington and forget who they serve. Not Ryan McKenzie. You are very lucky in Pennsylvania to have one of the good ones, and Ryan is helping us every single day fight for American workers. I believe, young man, shouldn't you be in school? We got a great young patriot over here. You ought to come up and take a photo afterwards. But I also want to give a shout out to Treasurer Stacey Garrity. Stacey, thanks for everything that you do, and thanks for being here today. Where is she? There we go. And of course, finally, to all the employees and the management, the good people of Uline for making it possible to be here. This is a massive facility, and I think that it speaks to what's going on in the United States of America under the past 10 months of Donald J. Trump's presidential leadership. Under this president, my friends, we are building again. We are investing in the United States of America again. You heard our Secretary of Labor talk about it. 61,000 jobs added in the month of November, and that's not all. We saw private sector wage growth grow at a rate of 4.2%. You know what that means? That means we're seeing the fastest private sector wage growth that we have seen in this country in many, many years. And we're doing it by having a president and an administration that believes in you and fights for you. That is what we're trying to do every single day. Now, I will say, as excited as I was to be here this morning, I remember when I got off the airplane, and it is cold. And, you know, like a good gentleman, I let my wife come down the steps first, and then I get to the bottom of the steps, and there's a bunch of firefighters from the great Lehigh Valley who want to take a photo with me. And obviously, I love our firefighters. I'm happy to take a photo. Now, here's the problem. To the right of me is all these media cameras, probably broadcasting my every moment on national television. Some of the fake news gathered with us here today. And to the left of me, is these great firefighters. And there before me is a sheet of black ice. And I think to myself, if I walk over to those guys and take this photo, I am gonna bust my you-know-what. I'm not gonna say it because we have this very bright young man here. I don't want to teach you any bad words. I don't want your mom and dad to be mad at me. So I do what any self-respecting man would do in a situation like that. I send my wife to go and take a photo with the firefighters. No, I didn't. I actually didn't. I did it the right way, but I did do sort of the Biden slow shuffle to get over there. I did not want these national cameras to catch me doing anything, you know, because if I wiped out on that runway, you all know that would be national news for the next week. Now, Joe Biden could fall walking up the steps in broad daylight in 80-degree weather. Nobody would mind it, but if me or the president do anything like that, it's going to be plastered all over the news. But now we're here, we've made it, we have not wiped out, and we're here to talk about America's economic comeback. And ladies and gentlemen, we needed an economic comeback in the United States of America. We needed it. When we talk about all the wage growth, when we talk about all the people who are coming into the United States to invest in the American worker, we've got real money, real jobs, and real opportunity. What that means for the state of Pennsylvania is that in just the last 11 months, we're creating 60,000 good-paying jobs for Pennsylvania families, and we're bringing in, just in this one Commonwealth, $100 billion of new investment into this great place. That is real opportunity for the American people. That is real wage growth for the American people. And look, I grew up in a community. I was raised by my grandmother in a community where, when I was growing up, the factories were closing down. And those good paying jobs, they weren't coming into our communities. They were getting shipped overseas by politicians in Washington, D.C. The President of the United States has set this entire administration on a different course. We are sick of rewarding companies that ship jobs overseas. We're going to reward companies that build right here in America and give Americans good wages to do it. And you already see it, my friends, you already see it in some of the numbers that we're seeing. When I talk about what we are most proud of, I probably start with what we've been able to do at the southern border, and we'll talk about that in a second. But right after that is, if you go to the Biden administration, the average American family lost $3,000 of take-home pay through the terrible inflation of the Biden administration. In just 10 months of the Trump administration, the average American family has gained about $1,000 of take-home pay. Now That difference could not be starker. When Joe Biden was president for 4 years, he took $3,000 out of your pocket. And in just 10 months of the president's leadership, we have put $1,000 back in your pocket. That's what that means. And that's just the beginning, my friends. That is just the beginning. Because if you look at what we are doing every single day, you are going to have, and if this doesn't turn out to be true, I'll come back here and you can all tell me I'm wrong, but I'm telling you it's going to be true. You are going to have middle-class Americans, middle-class Pennsylvanians, some of the best tax season in 2026 that you've ever had. Because if you look at no taxes on overtime, no taxes on tips, when we talk about no taxes on your auto loans if you buy an American-made car, now those are political words. I'm sure you've heard them on TV, but starting with tax season in just a couple of weeks, you're going to see that in your tax refund. That's what that means. More money in your pocket because you've got a president and a Congress that are fighting for you for a change, and that's exactly what it should be. And I gotta say, I'm a little surprised. I'm a little surprised by when the Democrats talk all the time about affordability. Democrats say, you know, things aren't affordable. This isn't affordable. This has gotten more expensive. Drugs have gotten more expensive. Housing's gotten more expensive. And you know what? They're right, and it was because of them. It ain't that hard. If you go back to the 4 years of the Biden administration, why did housing get so expensive, double in price during the Biden administration? It's because Joe Biden let in 20 million illegal immigrants who took homes that ought by right go to American citizens and to the people of this great state. When we talk about why did health care get so unaffordable during the Biden administration, it's because Joe Biden allowed prescription drug companies to take advantage of this country. You know, Europeans were paying way less for prescription drugs than our American citizens. It took Donald J. Trump to haul those pharmaceutical executives into the Oval Office and say, no more. Europe's gonna pay more for drugs and America's gonna pay less for drugs because we gotta fight for the American people for a change. Why have rents gone down for 4 consecutive months? And I know they're still too high, but why have rents gone down for 4 consecutive months? Because we're starting to get those illegal aliens out of the United States of America. Those criminals, those gang members, those people who are taking homes that ought by right go to the people in this room and your children and your grandchildren. It's simple economics. If you have fewer people, fewer illegal aliens trying to buy homes, that means American citizens are going to finally be able to afford a home again. It's very, very simple economics. When you ask, why is it that we have trillions of dollars of new investment coming into the United States of America? Because we finally got a president who says, if you're going to build in America, if you're going to invest in America, we're going to make it easy for you. But if you're not going to build anything in America, if you're going to try to ship an American job overseas, then we are going to penalize you for doing something overseas that you ought to do in the United States of America. That's why we've got so much money coming in. So if you look at every single affordability crisis that we talk about in the United States of America today, it's because we inherited a nightmare of an economy from Joe Biden. The highest peacetime debt and deficits in the history of the United States of America. That blows the door off inflation. The highest energy prices in the history of the United States of America. We are in one of the great energy regions in the entire world, not just in America, in the entire world. You know why energy prices are lower? You know why gas prices have come down so much? Because we finally got an American president who wants to invest in American energy and American workers instead of green energy boondoggles that are produced overseas. Thank you. So on all these things, my point, ladies and gentlemen, is that we are making progress. And I never forget where I come from. I never forget who I serve. And I know that there is so much more progress to be made. I remember my grandmother in times like this of the holidays. Of course, I think a lot of us remember the loved ones that we've lost. I remember my dear Mamaw, that's what I called her. And I was in a particularly hard math class in high school. And she said, "What do you need to do well in this class?" My grades weren't so good. And she went out, even though she could not afford even the essentials in life, she went out and got me a calculator, a very expensive calculator, so that I could do well in this math class. I remember what it feels like for American families when you have the government take $3,000 out of your pocket through higher taxes and higher inflation. I know what it's like for a woman who's trying to support a grandson but can't afford her prescription drugs because pharmaceutical companies are taking advantage of the United States of America. I remember what it's like when you have to choose between putting food on the table or getting the prescription that you need to stay healthy. And that is not a life that Donald Trump or I want for the citizens in the greatest country in the world. We want you. We want you to be able to afford the things that you have to give your kids and your grandkids a good life. We want you to check your credit card statement and for that to be an annoyance, something you got to do rather than something that causes a lot of stress and anxiety. We don't want a single parent or grandparent to have to look at their checking account and decide whether they're going to buy food or whether they're going to buy medicine this month. We are fighting for you every single day. And I don't want you to think for 1 second that because Joe Biden gave us the worst economy in the world that we forget it. No, we know. We know exactly what we were left with. We know exactly the consequences that it's caused for so many of our great families all across Pennsylvania. And I promise you, there is no person more impatient to solve the affordability crisis than Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States. You know, I hear these guys, I hear these Democrats talk about this as if you were going to fix these problems in a single day. It reminds me of probably the third day in the Oval Office where eggs had gotten so expensive under the Biden administration. And you look, I'm the Vice President of the United States. I'm a very blessed man. But we have 3 little kids who eat a lot of eggs. And so I know the price of a dozen eggs. So the price of eggs got really high during the Biden administration. It was the third day in the White House, and some reporter said, "What are you doing about the price of eggs? Haven't you seen they're so expensive?" And the president's like, "Lady, we've been here for 3 days. It takes a little bit of time to fix something that was so fundamentally broken." And so when I hear the Democrats talk about the affordability crisis that they created, it's a little bit like, you know, Charles Manson criticizing violent crime. Look in the mirror, my friend. You are the cause of the problem, and Donald J. Trump's administration is the solution to the problem that you created. I want to say one more thing here, and then I want to take some questions from the reporters, and then we'll have to hit the road. But, you know, this is such an amazing time to be in Pennsylvania. As much as I complain about the cold, and I do, as much as I almost busted my rear end on the tarmac today, I love being in the great state of Pennsylvania during this time of year. I love Christmas time. I love the beautiful trees. I love the snow on the hills. I love everything about this state this time of year. It reminds me a lot of my home state of Ohio for reasons that you all know well. But here's the thing. During this Christmas time, I think that we got to remember that we have a lot in the United States of America to be grateful for. And I am at the very top of the list of people who have a lot to be grateful for. I'm very grateful to my beautiful wife and our healthy kids. I'm very grateful to have this job, for the trust that all of you have put in me. I'm very grateful that we have a president of the United States who would literally take a bullet for this country, and in fact actually did. But I just ask all of you to count your blessings this holiday season, because there is a lot good out there. There's a lot that we're still working to fix. But I just wanted to say, from the President of the United States, from the entire administration, my friends in Pennsylvania, Merry Christmas to you. I hope your families have a Happy New Year. Thank you. All right. Thank you all. Please sit down. Sit down. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. Please. All right, we're going to take a few questions from the reporters, and we're going to start with the most egregious of the fake news. Is that right, Luke? No. We're going to start with the local reporters who have some integrity. So let's start with our local cameraman, and then we'll move on to the fake news if we have some time. Sir or ma'am?
Hi, I'm Jackson White from WITF in Harrisburg.
Hey, Jackson. How you doing?
I'm good. So many Americans are still reporting that they're experiencing high costs of groceries and other living expenses. How does the administration plan to lower those costs, and how long might that take for them to experience those lower costs?
Well, Jackson, as I said earlier, I think the best way to understand this is if the American people had $3,000 taken out of their pocket, it's going to take a little bit of time before they really feel like that money's been put back in their pocket. That just takes a lot of time. It's a lot of work. And I think the best way to do it is, on the one hand, you got to lower costs. That's why that we're lowering regulations on American energy to get gas and groceries down. Now, how does energy connect to groceries? Because if the truck that takes the groceries to the grocery store is paying out the wazoo for diesel fuel, then that means every American's going to be paying more at the grocery. If the farmers who actually grow our food are paying way too much for fuel and fertilizer, that means American citizens are not going to be able to afford their groceries. So if we lower the price of energy, we lower the price of groceries, we lower the price of gasoline, and importantly, we bring good jobs back into this country so that wages go up, that's how you give people a shot at the American dream again. That is our job. That is what we ran on. That is what we promised to do. And after 11 months, again, the average American family is $1,000 richer than they were 11 months ago. Now, if you had $3,000 taken out of your pocket by the Biden administration, of course you're still struggling to get by. Rome was not built in a day, but we are committed every single day to making every single American who works hard and plays by the rules, we want them to get a little bit richer every single day. And we do believe that if we keep on making the right decisions, we keep on investing in the United States of America, we are going to find that the American citizens can afford a good life in their country again. That's our obligation, and that's what we're trying to do.
Good morning, Mr. Vice President. My name is Thomas Shortell. I'm a reporter with Lehigh Valley Public Media. Congressman Ryan McKenzie and a number of other battleground Republicans have been pushing to have tax credit extensions on the ACA. I was curious what your thoughts were on their efforts. Is that something that the administration is behind?
So first of all, just on healthcare costs, if you look at some of the worst healthcare costs for American citizens, the biggest drivers of increased healthcare costs, it is the cost of prescription drugs. It simply got way too high, and it got too high because we allowed other countries to take advantage of it. I'm talking about the same exact drug that would cost $300 in Great Britain or $250 in France would cost an American $5,000 or $10,000. We were subsidizing the entire world's prescription drugs, and no president had the courage to put a stop to it. And Ryan McKenzie has been very supportive on this. Nobody had the courage to put a stop to it until Donald J. Trump said no. We are done getting fleeced on pharmaceuticals. Europe has to pay up so that our great American citizens can pay less. That's the most important thing that we've done. Now, you are right that the health insurance market, the health insurance system is totally broken. It's been broken for 15 years, and we're working with Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, to come up with a solution. You talked about premium support. We think that everything should be on the table, but Democrats and Republicans, they got to work together and put something on the president's desk to sign. Now, I will tell you, we've been involved in probably 10 different health care bills. You know, we've been talking to Ryan about it. We've been talking to my friend Bernie Moreno from the state of Ohio. We've been talking to Susan Collins about it. We've even been talking to a few of the reasonable Democrats who are putting ideas out there. But Congress has got to get us something to lower the cost of health insurance for American citizens. The Obamacare system was broken. Donald J. Trump wants to fix it, but Congress has got to step up here.
Mr. Vice President, thanks for taking my question. I'm Hannah Brandt from News Nation. As I'm sure you know, recent polling shows most Americans don't approve of how the Trump administration is handling the economy. I hear what you're saying, that it's going to take time to fix things, but the political reality is that the midterms are next year. Are you worried that affordability is a political liability for your administration and for Republicans?
Look, I'm not worried about the politics because I believe fundamentally in the wisdom of the American people. When we go out there and we tell our story, that gasoline and energy got way too high under Joe Biden's administration, but we've lowered the cost of energy, the American people will understand that. The American people know that. When we go out there and talk about the fact that the affordability crisis that happened under Joe Biden's administration made a lot of Americans poorer and working every single day to put money back in their pocket, I think the American people will understand and agree with that. Of course, they're going to be the ones who make the final decision. But I feel very confident that if we keep wages high, we keep energy prices low, we keep on chipping away at the affordability crisis created by Joe Biden's administration, yes, I believe the American people are going to reward us because the American people are smart. They know Rome wasn't built in a day. They know what Joe Biden broke is not going to get fixed in a week. We got to stay with it. We got to keep on working on bringing good jobs and money back into the United States of America. And that it already has paid major dividends for the American people. It's going to pay a lot more in the year to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. This is Elizabeth Mitchell from the Daily Signal. The health care bill released Friday by the GOP doesn't include health savings accounts. Are you comfortable with that? And would you like to see the GOP use the special reconciliation process to address health care costs and other affordability concerns?
Well, one of the things the president has said is we have the weirdest health insurance system in the world, where we tax money from all of these great Americans out here, and then we give boatloads of money to the insurance companies. Why don't we give that money to the American people and let them buy insurance that works for them and their families? I mean, if you look at insurance company profits, they have been skyrocketing ever since Obamacare was passed. The insurance companies have done very well under Obamacare. You know who hasn't done well under the Obamacare system of giving boatloads of money to the American people? All of you. That's what's broken about this system. It's good for insurance companies and bad for Americans. We are trying to get to a health care policy that's good for Americans. We don't care. If the insurance companies do well, great. If they do poorly, that's their problem. We are here to fight for the American worker and make health insurance affordable for them. So we're going to keep on working at it. You mentioned one piece of legislation. I've probably read a dozen different pieces of legislation that are floating out there. Again, it's going to come to the point where Republicans and Democrats have to figure out what can be passed together. Of course, the president is going to drive a lot of that process. We're still reviewing some of these legislative texts as they come up. We believe that we can solve this problem. But again, the nature of our system, we're going to work with Congress to make sure we get something that's good for the American people through the Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. This is Iris Sentner from Politico. President Trump last week gave his economy a grade of A++++. What grade would you give the economy today?
A++++. Look, Here's the simple fact of the matter. Again, you have to understand all of this stuff in context. You have to ask yourself, what has the Trump economy been able to build over the past 10 or 11 months, given what we inherited from the Biden administration? Ladies and gentlemen, we had the worst inflation crisis in 50 years in the United States of America under Joe Biden. We had the worst trade deficit in the history of the United States under Joe Biden. We had debt and deficits, the highest in the history of American peacetime in 250 years. What we have been able to do, higher wages, lower inflation, a massive amount of investment and money coming into the United States of America, that stuff is incredible. And that is something to be proud of. What I will say is that given how bad things got under the Biden administration, we are going to keep on working every single day to make sure that Americans feel the benefits of the Trump economy. I am certain that we've already seen great benefits for the American people, but we got a lot of rebuilding to do over the next 3 years, and the president is committed more than anybody to making sure that we do it.
Hi there, Vice President JD Vance. This is Rob Manch with 69 News, WFMZ. The jobs report you mentioned this morning, you said 60,000 jobs were added in November. However, it also said 100,000 jobs were lost in October, and the unemployment rate currently stands at 4.6%, which is the highest since the pandemic. So my question is, how do you inspire companies to hire people if people don't have jobs? Income tax cuts aren't going to help them.
Well, first of all, the idea that income tax cuts don't help is ridiculous. If more people have more money to spend in their pocket, that's good for businesses, it's good for families, it's good for everybody. It's one of the ways why we do this. When you talk about 100,000 jobs, you're talking about government sector jobs, and that is in a lot of ways the entire story of what we're trying to do under President Trump's leadership. We want to fire bureaucrats and hire these great Americans out here. That's what we're trying to do. Now, you mentioned, this is an important point, you mentioned the unemployment rate ticking up to 4.6%. I think this is a very, very important point, because you know what that means? What that data shows, you got to get in the weeds a little bit. The unemployment rate only counts the people who are looking for work. So let's say you dropped out of work 2 years ago, you haven't been searching for a job. Well, you're unemployed, but you're not counted in the official unemployment statistics. What you're seeing as wages go up, as more investment comes into our country, is that people who weren't looking for work under Biden's administration are getting out there and looking for work in the Trump administration. That's exactly what we want. We want to get people off the sidelines and give them a good job with good pay, and we're seeing a lot of evidence that that is happening under President Trump's leadership. We'll take one more question.
Mr. Vice President, Jacob Bogage from the Washington Post. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Same to you.
Unfortunately, I have to ask a bit of an off-topic question from Affordability because news events do intervene, and that is the interviews that White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles gave to Vanity Fair, in which she's quoted as referring to you as, excuse me, and again, not my words, sir, but a conspiracy theorist of a decade, and described your transformation from someone who once opposed President Trump to now his vice president as an act of political expediency. And I'd like to give you the chance to respond to that, sir.
Well, first of all, if Susie, I'll trust what you said. I haven't looked at the article. I of course have heard about it, but conspiracy theorist. Sometimes I am a conspiracy theorist, but I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true. And by the way, Susie and I have joked in private and in public about that for a long time. For example, I believed in the crazy conspiracy theory back in 2020 that it was stupid to mask 3-year-olds at the height of the COVID pandemic, that we should actually let them develop some language skills. You know, I believed in this crazy conspiracy theory that the media and the government were covering up the fact that Joe Biden was clearly unable to do the job. And I believed in the conspiracy theory that Joe Biden was trying to throw his political opponents in jail rather than win an argument against his political opponents. So, at least on some of these conspiracy theories, it turns out that a conspiracy theory is just something that was true 6 months before the media admitted it. And that's my understanding. Now, look, I do want to say something about Susie, though, because, again, having not read this article, Susie is a person I've come to know very, very well. And, you know, a lot of you probably ask yourself, what is it like behind the scenes? What's going on actually behind the scenes of the Trump administration? And I'll tell you, the president is exactly in private who he is in public. Like, I'll tell you a little story. Maybe a week or so ago, I walk into the Oval Office and Marco and I are sitting there talking with the president about something. He says, stop. And he looks at our shoes and says, you guys have terrible shoes. So he goes and gets a shoe catalog. And remember, this is the Christmas season, so the president's got some holiday cheer. He goes and gets a shoe catalog and gets his favorite shoes and orders like 4 pairs of shoes for me and 4 pairs of shoes for Marco, because he's like, we need our vice president or secretary of state to look their very best. And, then we went back to talking about whatever major, international issue we were talking about. Again, he is exactly in private who he is in public. That's not true of most people in Washington, D.C. It's not. And I've seen so many people who will say one thing to the president's face, Democrats and Republicans, and then will do the exact opposite behind the scenes. You know why I really, you know what they are, and you know why I really love Susie Wiles? Because Susie is who she is in the president's presence. She's the same exact person when the president isn't around. I've never seen Susie Wiles say something to the president and then go and counteract him or subvert his will behind the scenes. And that's what you want in a staffer. Because as much as I love Susie, the American people didn't elect any staffer. They elected the President of the United States. And what you want in a staffer is a person who understands they are there to effectuate the will of the American people, and they're there to follow the orders of the duly elected Commander-in-Chief of the United States. And Susie Wiles, we have our disagreements. We agree on much more than we disagree, but I've never seen her be disloyal to the President of the United States, and that makes her the best White House Chief of Staff that I think the President could ask for. And the last thing I'll say is, if any of us have learned a lesson from that Vanity Fair article, I hope that the lesson is we should be giving fewer interviews to mainstream media outlets. So with that lesson internalized, I'm going to stop taking questions and just leave you with one final note. And again, it's just a note of gratitude. This is the coolest job I've ever had. Agree with us or disagree with us, I'm sure that every single person in this room made something happen to get me to this job. You went out there and voted. Maybe you persuaded one of your relatives to vote, maybe even volunteered or knocked on doors or made phone calls for us. I will never forget that my job every single day is to make it so that you guys can have a safe and prosperous life in this country that all of us love. Thank you. Thank you. We inherited a mess, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to show